Hello and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that, even if the math is hard, in its sessions of playing Rex, likes to trump the enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at a game that's been around for a little while. I am talking about Runewars from Fantasy Flight Games. Ladies and gentlemen, Runewars is a game that has been around for a while now, so I'm really not going to get into an exhaustive rules breakdown because this is a big game, a lot of stuff going on here. I'm just going to give you some basic bullet points and then move right to my review. So first of all, essentially it is a fantasy game. You build tiles to build the board, build a play area. You've got mountains of cards and all sorts of other things, and you each have your own faction. It plays 2 to 4 players. And you are going to go ahead and each kind of get your home area and put your units on the board. You're also going to start with a hero. You're going to draw cards to find your hero, and the different heroes will be made available to you during the game. Now, the game essentially revolves around seasons. There are 4 different seasons, which represent a game year. The game generally is going to last 7 game years, although there is a possibility of an earlier victory in the game. How it works is every season you draw a season card, and it's going to kind of set up specific events and ideas for that season. Sometimes it may have, your heroes activate and go on quests, and there can be all sorts of other kooky things that happen as well. The board is also going to be populated with a number of neutral creatures, neutral, fantasy animals, dragons, and wild beasts, and what have you. And so as you're moving out, you're going to encounter these things, you're going to fight these things. You can even try to kind of ally with them as well using diplomacy. Now, each faction also has a faction sheet. On the faction sheet on the right side, it's going to have kind of your unit breakdown. Units come in classes. They have, squares, triangles, circles, and that represents kind of their base, but also kind of what they fit into in the game, what category. You also have 3 dials that represent kind of your faction's resources, things like food, forests, and minerals. And where you are on those dials is going to be very important because that's going to kind of increase how you can field your army and do other fun and kooky things in the game. Now, each faction also has a similar deck of action cards. And these action cards contain different things that are numbered, I think 1 through 7 or 8. I can't remember exactly how many there are. But you've got these different kinds of, action cards that you're going to play in the game. You're going to simultaneously reveal these. The player with the lowest number, of course, goes first. You work your way up there. Now, the cards have basic actions on them, and if it's the highest card you have played in a game round, once you play through them all, if every time you play one that's higher than any other card you played, you also get a certain supremacy bonus that's on those. Basically, the cards are things like Strategize, which kind of let you maneuver and move units initially. Then you've kind of got the Mobilize, which actually lets you, gives you kind of more movement and allows you to attack your enemies if you want to. You have a Conquer card, which is very similar to the Mobilize card. Again, allows you to attack. It's got a different supremacy ability on it. Now, you also have the Harvest card. Now, Harvest card is important because when you conquer an area, even if it's got resources on it, you don't initially get it. You have to harvest it. So you play the Harvest card, you can go ahead and add up all the resources on the board that you have and apply those to your dials, which again is going to give you various goodies for the rest of the game, or at least until you lose those resources. You can recruit, which essentially allows you to recruit more units onto the board in your home areas, I think cities if I recall, and then also fortifications that you can build later in the game. The Rally Support card lets you gain certain things from cities, be they tactic cards or quest cards or the influence tokens. You can do that there. Then you also have the Acquire Power, which is essentially lets you get some of the influence tokens. Influence tokens are kind of the currency in the game. They can be very important in certain times for certain things. So that allows you to gain more of those. Then, of course, you have Fortify. Fortify lets you build strongholds and repair ones that have been damaged. But essentially, it's kind of your way of projecting your power beyond your homeland and providing a base for you to expand with. Now, during battle, you remove the units from the board. You place a battle marker on the board so you remember where it's all going down. And then you place your units next to kind of their respective shapes on your battle board. Now, when they go first, or rather when they attack, you go ahead and you draw a card from the Fate deck, because battle in this game is card-driven. Now, the Fate deck is going to show you kind of the different shapes and what are available, and then it's going to say what happens, what they do. So you draw the card, it says triangles get, 2 damage, then boom, you get 2 damage on your opponents like that. So you're going through, and you can wipe out your enemy before they can get shots at you, assuming you got the numbers. But you're going back and forth doing these things. There's also some kind of special advantages that can pop up during combat and some other goodies along the way. Now, you also have these heroes in the game. Now, the heroes, again, there's different ways you can acquire them, and at different times they're going to be able to go on quests. They go into quests, and they're going to do kind of skill checks. Again, you're using the Fate deck to see, depending on different factors, they're going to draw a different number of cards, and if they can get so many successes, then they win the skill check, they win the quest, you complete it, you get whatever the reward is. Heroes also can help you in battle. You can assign them to classes to help out in certain situations during battle. So they're kind of multifunctional in that regard. Now, the whole point of the game is you have these dragon tokens. People are placing them. They're placing false ones and real ones, so you don't know which ones are real and which ones are false. But that's essentially why you're going at each other, why you're attacking into each other and trying to explore further into the game board, is you're trying to collect these spaces that have these dragon runes on them. Now, these dragon runes, again, they're essentially your victory points. No one knows which ones are real and which ones are not. Now, after you go through 7 game years, whoever has the most Dragon Rune tokens, controls the most Dragon Rune tokens, is the winner. Also, too, you have some kind of special victory cards. If you've got 6 Dragon Rune tokens earlier in the game and you kind of meet the conditions on your victory card, then you win Runewars. Again, friends, that was just an extremely brief overview of Runewars. There are many other videos up for Runewars right now. You can go ahead and take a look at those if you want a more complex rules breakdown. I'm just kind of giving you the bare bones here. So I bought Runewars. This is the 2nd edition. I bought this not long after it came out, 5-6 years ago, and I never got it at the table. Never played it. Always wanted to. I came this close on many occasions. I just never got at the table. And finally, as I'm kind of clearing stuff out, preparing for my move, I decided I was going to go ahead and I was going to finally play this game. Now, I got to tell you too, if you know, for the past few years on the show, Twilight Imperium 3rd edition has been my favorite game of all time. I love that game, and it has been suggested that Runewars is kind of the fantasy equivalent of Twilight Imperium. So that made me really, really excited for it. And a little intimidated by it, too, because Twilight Imperium is an intimidating game. But I was really looking forward to it. A while back, maybe about a year or so ago, Tom Vazel reviewed it. And I watched Tom Vazel's review, and he said he was less than impressed with it. And that kind of bothered me. It didn't bother me. He can say what he wants about it. But, I mean, I guess it disheartened me, is what I mean to say. Because I'm thinking, the game looks fantastic. If it's anything approaching Twilight Imperium, it's going to be fantastic. So I was a little weary going into this, thinking, well, Tom doesn't like it. And bear in mind, Tom and I's tastes coincide here and there, but we're very different gamers, I think, in a lot of fundamental ways. For instance, my favorite game of all time, Twilight Imperium. His Cosmic Encounter? Really? Anyway, I played this game, played Runewars, and we got into it. And one thing I too, is I was not... I love dice combat. I love dice combat in games. I mean, it takes me back to Axis and Allies. I love dice combat. And there was no dice combat in this game. No dice. It's card-driven. I'm like, I mean, I played plenty of games that have got different fun combat mechanics, but I hate deterministic combat. It's not my favorite. And I'm playing, but with these cards, okay, it's random. And what I found is I'm playing combat, I really like combat in this game. I think it's freaking awesome. I actually really got into combat. The way you got the different ranks and you're drawing the cards, and I really like combat in this game. And I'd like to see that in other games. Maybe it's out there and I haven't played any of them. But I really like combat. I really, really like combat in this game. That was awesome. The heroes bit, I had another friend of mine that told me that heroes were kind of weak, and it was kind of, just felt like it was glommed on. He was right. The hero part of this game is less than stellar. It's not as interesting as it could be. I'm thinking of one of my favorite games, fantasy games, is Conquest of Narath, and it's a very different game from this. It's more of almost a straight war game, but it does have a kind of a hero and questing side to it, and I like that a lot, the way it works there. Here, it just, I don't know, it was just not that interesting to me in Runewars, and it felt like it killed the pace. You know, you're kind of moving these armies and strategizing and getting all these things, into position where you want them and fighting these battles, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, let's do this now. And it just kind of slowed things down unnecessarily. It didn't like that. I was not a fan of that. And they really don't add too much to combat. I think you could probably play this game without the heroes and be just fine, I think. Probably not. I don't know. On the whole, my experience with Runewars, and I'll be blunt, I've just played it the one time. I've just played this the one time. And I wanted to review it. I wanted to talk about it because it's been on my shelf for a while, and I just wanted to talk about it. So you can take this with a grain of salt. Like I say, just for one playthrough. I liked it. I didn't love it. I was less... like I say, I was hoping initially I would love this game, and then these kind of people that have been talking to me and Tom Vazel's review made me less excited for it, and I can see why. It's a good game. There's some fun stuff in here, but it's not a game that made me stand up and cheer, and it is probably about it. It's a game I won't be keeping. I'll probably end up selling this one or giving it to a friend or something, but I'm not. I don't think I'm going to hang on to it. I was less than impressed with it. So you can take that for like I said, for what it's worth from one playthrough, but it just didn't scratch any particular itch for me. I got other fantasy games, kind of war games that I like a lot better. So the recommendation for the discriminating gamer is, try it before you buy it, but don't expect too much. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that is not being investigated for its ties to Russia.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I've been dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
2, 1. All right, so you're first.
Woo!